Just a quick note before we begin. This podcast is for general information and educational purposes only. Nothing we discuss should be taken as financial, legal, or tax advice. We're sharing personal experiences and opinions, and everyone's situation is different. So always do your own research and speak with a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you here. So Emily's been in financial planning, financial advisory for 15 years. Yeah, so a lot of experience under your belt.
Yeah.
And would you say that when you first started, how was the financial industry or financial planning industry before in comparison to now?
Yeah. It's definitely, after the Royal Commission and all those sorts of things, a lot of advisors have left the industry. So it's a lot smaller now. That's probably the main change, I'd say.
Okay, cool. So it's a lot smaller now. And would you say that these days I feel like there's a lot more talk about financial independence and like personal finance. Is that what you're finding as well, like on your side of things? Or is that more like maybe I'm in my own like bubble?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think traditionally financial planning was sort of seen as more of a retirement sort of thing or, something for the super wealthy. Whereas that sort of changed over time as well, I guess. We're seeing a lot more younger clients coming through and, being interested in, starting that planning a lot earlier, which is good.
Oh, wow. And would you say, because personally I haven't, but wasn't really that interested into it. I didn't want to hear anything about it until maybe in my, what would you say is like the youngest sort of client you've spoken to?
Um, yeah, so I've worked with clients in their 20s even, so
Wow.
late 20s, but yeah, probably a lot of the clients are sort of in that 30s to 40s that I've been working with recently. So
Great. Awesome. And before we dive into all of that, I'd love to know, Emily, for the audience, what is something that's not in your LinkedIn profile?
um, yeah, so something, I guess, like a more personal thing or personal goal that I have for 2026 is I am going to be running a half marathon.
Gosh, that's huge.
Yeah. So yeah, not something I've ever done before, but I've just sort of recently got back into running and yeah, thought I'd set myself a bit of a challenge and a bit of a goal and we'll see how that goes.
Oh my God, congratulations. Is that the Sydney Half Marathon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Haven't done it yet. So.
And are you a bit of a runner before or are we starting from scratch?
Yeah, look, I haven't for a while. It's only something that I've sort of more recently picked back up. But I did, do a lot of running when I was younger. So I just haven't, got off the track and now I'm getting back on.
Oh my God, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so being, I guess, like having that goal in mind, like I feel like running is such a mental thing as well. And it's such a mental game. Would you say that during your career or in span of your career in the financial industry, is that something like the mental mindset of it all? Is that something that relates to your career?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably a lot of parallels that you can kind of draw between fitness goals and financial goals as well. First and foremost, just getting started, which is often the hardest thing for a lot of people. And yeah, just having that consistency as well, which can be applied to fitness and also with your money. You can sort of think of money as sort of building a muscle as well. It's like building those habits over time, keeping consistent and having that accountability as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of parallels, I think, between the two.
Okay. And for example, when you're talking about building those habits and starting early, how do you motivate a young person to like start thinking about investing? When I feel like when I was a teenager, even all I wanted to do was spend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Look, it is hard. I think definitely like if you get clear on your goals and what you're looking to achieve, then that's a really important piece because that's going to help keep you motivated and help you stick the course as well. And yeah, just having a look at sort of the research and how compounding works over time, it's really powerful. Um, if you're just investing even just a tiny bit in your 20s,
Mhm.
um, the impact that has come retirement is massive. And whilst it's never too late to start, if you are starting a bit later, the amounts that you'd have to invest to achieve the same result is a lot higher. So, it sort of leads to more sacrifices. So if you can start early, it really sets you up well.
Yeah. And a lot of people feel very scared when you say investing, right? Like the word investing, it's to some people, or maybe most people, it sounds so scary. How would you, if I was, let's say, if I was 25 and I don't know how to invest, I'm coming back from like a trip, a Kentucky trip from Europe, and I'm like, I think I need to learn how to invest. What would you, what would you tell me almost as a general thing that you would give me if I was like a 25-year-old niece?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there that are free education, things like podcasts and things like that. That can give you some ideas to get started. There's also a lot of like micro investing sort of apps that you can start with, which is really good if you like don't have a lot of money or just getting started, and that can kind of give you a feel for how it all works. And probably just picking a really basic kind of strategy, like sticking to index style investments and ETFs, things like that. And yeah, just getting a feel for how it goes and watching it go up and down.
Yeah, amazing. And would you you mentioned something like those is it those apps? Did you say they're kind of like the roundup apps?
Yeah, there are products out there that do roundups. So you can kind of, every purchase on your card rounds up and that money goes into your investment account and is invested for you. So that can be a really easy way to kind of start and something that you're not really going to notice. So it's not going to like, impact your cash flow too heavily. So those can be really good as well. I don't sort of want to be necessarily recommending any products, but yeah, to name a few, there's things like Raise, Spaceship, those sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely. This is a very financial advisor answer.
Yeah.
So for our audience, I know for a fact, like working with financial advisors, it's they don't really want to like recommend you one way or another, mainly because each each person it's tailored to what you want to do. So that's I guess like one of if you were to work with a financial advisor, it's going to be really tailored to your needs. So that just to give like the audience like a caveat that yeah, that's usually how it works is we kind of have to give our goals, what we want to do, and then from that we'll work backwards. Cool. So you will start off with those micro investing apps and like learn about investing in various forms of media, maybe YouTube, podcasting. And if I was like 25 years old, what percentage of my salary, if I was working like a waitressing job or something like that, or a retail job, just to start investing, like flexing that investing muscle, how much would I set aside?
Yeah. It's quite personal, really. I suppose it depends, what you're comfortable with and what you can afford. But yeah, anything that you can start with, however big or small, does make a difference. And there are free tools as well, like on the Money Smart website, for example, like there's a compounding tool which you can jump on and just see sort of what you think you could afford, and it'll kind of show you how that will grow. It'll give you an idea of how that will grow over time as well. So that could be, really powerful and useful.
Nice. And I remembered when I first started, this is like more than 10 years ago, and I was kind of scared of investing. I used the Concept app and I started with $500 every month. Just that. And you do see the ups and downs and you kind of like flex that muscle of being okay when the market is down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you, I guess, like for people who haven't invested yet, what would you say is what would you tell them for those who are like kind of scared when the market is down or they feel like investing is a gamble, which is weird to me, but some people have those thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, when you're investing, if you're investing in a broad-based index, you've got exposure to thousands of different companies. So, you're really spreading your risk there with that sort of investment. And it's normal for markets to go up and down over time. We are going to have moments where there might be pullbacks of 20, 30%, those sorts of things. And it's just about being comfortable with that. Any money that you do put towards any share investments or growth investments, you want to have like a 7 to 10 year time frame. So make sure that you've got appropriate cash buffers in place, like an emergency fund, a rainy day fund, so that any money that you're putting in, that you're not going to need or have to pull out. And yeah, it's just getting comfortable with that over time, which it is something that you sort of get used to.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, I'm kind of okay with like the market crashes here and there because you see it a lot. And do you see some people still like panic and almost like sell the stocks and whatnot when the markets are down? Is that still something that you see?
Yeah, I think, it's quite, people can often make decisions based on emotions, which is not necessarily, the best way to be making decisions, particularly, when it comes to investments. And that's sort of, that fear and greed mentality. When things are going up, people tend to get a bit of FOMO, they don't want to miss the boat. And then on the flip side, when things are going down, it's very natural to sort of panic and want to sell out because obviously you don't want to lose your money. But yeah, with investments, you're only losing or making a loss when you sell. So if you can sort of ride that out, the research shows that you're much better off to be buying and holding than trying to time the market, and which is pretty difficult to do and get right.
Yeah. So what you're saying is if, for example, let's say I've put in $1,000 and all of a sudden the market dipped to like 30% and I only have $700. If I didn't sell when it's dipped, it's okay. There's a chance for it to go up.
Yes. And if you have the opportunity or, some extra money that you might be able to put in, that can also be a good time to take advantage and buy more shares while the market's down, because that will set you up for the eventual recovery as well. So that's sort of, although it does seem counterintuitive, that's the sort of approach that's best to take when it comes to investing.
That's it. So when the market is down, most people do say the shares are on sale. So yeah, awesome. Great tip. Perfect. So when it comes to like people investing or starting their investing journey, do you find that people usually get stuck with, do I buy a house first or do I start investing first?
Yes. Yeah, that's a common question of like, what do I buy? What's the best sort of approach? So yeah, that will it'll depend where you are and how much money you have. I do think, property is a really great way to build wealth, and you can use leverage and banks money to really, accelerate that, and it opens more investment opportunities for you as well, over time. But there is a bit of a barrier to entry with property because you do need to have that deposit. So I think, yeah, depends how much money you have when you're starting, which shares can be a really good sort of entry point, and then transitioning into property once that builds to a level that allows.
And would you say that, for example, people can almost like invest in shares. And then if they have enough sort of like the investment grew to amount that they can buy a deposit, they can then sell those shares and then use that to buy property, use that as a deposit to buy property.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good way to sort of help hopefully grow your deposit and get into a property sooner.
Yeah, perfect. And when it comes to, so I know that you've had a lot of experience working with tech professionals, which is awesome. Kind of wish that we knew each other from before. But tell us some of the common traps that tech professionals like get into.
Yeah, so with tech professionals in particular, it's quite common for the companies to offer share schemes or employee share schemes. So those can be quite complex, and you need to understand the rules of your specific plan because every company is different as well. So that's probably one of the most common traps, is not fully understanding that part of the remuneration, not having a proper plan for when those shares are vesting, and also not understanding fully the tax implications of that as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more complexity that comes in um, when you've got those sorts of plans.
Yeah. And just for the sake of our audience, what is vesting?
Yeah, so it depends on the different type of plan that you have. So there's a few different share plans that companies typically offer. I'll just use RSUs as an example, so restricted stock units. So this is typically if you work for a company that's listed on the ASX as part of their remuneration, or like as part of your bonus, you might be granted some shares. So let's say 1,000 shares granted on July of the financial year. And then the vesting point. So this depends on, obviously, the details of your specific plan, but those shares might vest in, say, 3 years. So when they're granted to you, that you don't actually sort of own the shares, you have to wait until they vest, and then at that point, they're yours, and you can choose to do what you want. You can hold on to them or sell them. So yeah, the vesting point is when they become available, essentially, and that's also at the point in which they're typically taxed as well.
I see. So that one would be a taxable event. So whether you sell them or not, it's still a taxable event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So for all the people there with questions about this specifically, feel free to ask financial professionals because they can be quite complex. First-hand experience about the complexity of this. And I totally agree. Most companies who do give them away, I think some of them are pretty good with explaining it, but definitely not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the key is to really make sure you read the details of the plan and you understand, all the ins and outs, so that you don't you get stuck in any sticky situation, particularly with a tax, because the value of the shares can be quite high in a lot of cases. They're worth quite a lot, and the associated tax can also be quite high. So it's important to plan for.
There you go. So tax planning it is.
Yeah.
I was having lunch with a friend the other day, and she's at a pre-IPO company, about to list in the US market. And I did ask, I'm like, have you spoken to someone about tax planning? And yeah, she did say that, no, I'm not planning to sell. So why should I? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So with share options for unlisted companies, you can hold on to them if you wanted to. I would say it's important to get clear on, again, coming back to your goals and what you're looking to achieve. Would it be worth exercising and selling some of those options and doing something different with that money? It really depends on the individual and what they've got going on and what they want to achieve. But that can be, a good way to sort of start to diversify and take some of that risk off the table as well.
Oh, tell me about that you spoke about, like, to diversify and to take off risk. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so for tech employees, as an example, there is a concentration risk essentially that exists off with these share schemes where your salary is tied to the performance of your employer, along with your bonus, commissions, and these shares as well. So what's quite common that we'll see is clients coming to see us, and they've got this concentration risk that maybe they haven't sort of thought too um, too much about, but it's very real. So if you've also got all of your investments tied to the performance of your employer, I mean, it's great when things are going well, but that might not always be the case. So you've got a lot of exposure there, and it can be good to kind of look at how you can minimize risk by pulling some of that money out and putting it in a more broadly developed strategy, like multiple companies or looking at property or things like that.
That is such an interesting thought process because you're right. If everything's going well, amazing, almost like all your bets are on it and it's doing well. But good point on diversifying and making sure that you're not that exposed.
Yes, yeah, for sure. There is sort of a tendency as well, I think, when you work for a company and you sort of, privy to inside information, you can often be quite biased in terms of like how you think things are going to perform going forwards as well. So that's something to also be aware of as well, because it doesn't always, you know, count.
Fair enough. There you go. So make sure that you diversify. That is the key that I got from that. So diversify your risk. Yes. There you go. And besides, I guess, not understanding share schemes, options, all that kind of language, how else are tech employees sort of like what other traps should tech employees watch out for?
Ooh,
I
yeah.
guess like common pitfalls, if you may.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, I think probably just like falling into default mode with your money, and not being intentional. I mean, that's not necessarily purely for tech employees, but it's common to see that with the clients that we see. So yeah, getting clear again around your goals, what you're looking to achieve, and making sure that you've got a plan in place. So um, you know, starting point would be really sort of understanding your current position, and what your cash flow is. If you are like, are you spending within your means? Often, lifestyle creep is something that can happen as your income increases over time. And yeah, what I would say is, there's that window, it's a 10 to 15 year window where you're in your peak earning years. It's really important to sort of make sure that you're harnessing that and using that to your advantage to build wealth more long term, which is going to provide you with more options and allow you to take some of the pressure off further down the line.
I see. So people usually get into default mode and kind of not just thinking about the way that they spend or treat money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy, life's busy and, sometimes finances can go on the back burner a little bit. So, yeah, important to have that focus, so that, you're setting yourself up well for the future.
And how often do you see lifestyle creep?
Yeah. A lot. No, it's very common. I think the more you earn, often the more you spend, and it can be really easy to fall into that trap as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about like knowing your position and understanding your cash flow. Can you tell me about that? If I didn't know about like finance and personal finance, does that mean?
Yeah. So getting clear on, what money is coming in, so how much you're earning after tax, and also getting clear, like doing a forecast of where you're wanting to spend your money. So we would break that down into different categories. Obviously, you've got your non-negotiables, bills, and things like that. Your variable living expenses, and then more big ticket items like holidays and the fun stuff. You want to make sure you're forecasting for all that too. And so really getting clear on, after all of that, how much is there at the end of the day? And, are you happy with that? Are you spending on things that maybe you don't necessarily value? Is there room to sort of tighten that up and improve your free cash flow that you can kind of like put towards investments and progressing faster? So
Okay. And so when it comes to, I love that you mentioned like forecasting, because often that's a term that we hear at work, a very corporate thing. And most people who do work in tech companies, we forecast, right? We have weekly forecasts with our managers, quarterly forecasts, all obviously annual forecasts, but I feel like it's very rare that people do that on their personal finances.
yeah, exactly. And you should sort of be treating your household, I guess, as a business as well. So you're wanting to get ahead. And yeah, you can do it in that same way.
I love that. That's such a key takeaway for me of like, okay, we do all the forecasting for our clients, for the companies, but we need to take the time to actually forecast for our lives. Yes, key takeaway. Perfect. And what would you say is, I'm sure you've met many, many people from many different walks of life. What would you say is the key, maybe just the top three things that most people are spending too much on that they can probably cut back on?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting things that you see going through on the cash flow forecast, but yeah, look, it's really, it depends on the person as well. Like as a advisor, I'm not sort of ever seeing clients and going through these forecasts and telling them what to do. It shouldn't be restrictive, right? It's at the end of the day, it comes down to what you value, and people value different things. So, some people might be spending a lot on holidays, but that's something that they really value is important. So, and there might be other things that they don't value as much. So it's all sort of subjective and relative, I guess.
What if they value holidays, a nice car, and eating out, and also
Yeah.
a nice house?
Yeah. So then what we do is kind of take that original forecast, we'll model it out and show them like this is how you're tracking if we don't make any changes. And that can be quite eye-opening for people. Even just going through the forecasting and cash flow process can often be quite eye-opening, because I think often people aren't saving as much as they thought they were or were expecting. But yeah, having that clarity of how you're tracking, and then that can kind of help to kind of change your mindset around like, do I really want to be working this long, or are there areas that I can cut back a little bit without compromising too much on your lifestyle that's going to get the results that you want a little bit faster.
And so I love that the question of like, how long do I need to work for is a question. Is that a common thing that people sort of think about?
Yeah, for sure. And again, it is quite personal. Like some people, would prefer to live really well, in the moment, and they're happy to work longer. And others, want to aggressively save and reach that, financial freedom essentially as quickly as possible. Or, there's clients that fall in between as well. So
Yeah. What age would you say is the youngest that that has reached financial freedom or financial independence?
yeah, some clients will have reached it in their 30s even.
Wow.
Yeah, it happens for sure.
Emily, if someone is in tech, and I feel like this is something that's so common, if someone in tech is feeling behind in their like 30s to 40s, what would you tell them?
Yeah, it is definitely very common. So yeah, the first thing is you're not alone, and it's common, among clients of any age really. It's like people are often comparing themselves to others and thinking, they should be further ahead. Obviously, yeah, if you could start with this stuff earlier, if you could start 5-10 years ago, that would be great. But at the end of the day, just focus on what you can do now and look forward from where you are now. Essentially, it's never too late. You want to start getting those wheels in motion.
Amazing. And do you think people feel that pressure now because of social media, or was it the same as it was when you started your career?
Yeah, I think definitely, with social media, there's definitely a lot of comparison that goes on that's driven by that. But yeah, I think it's always been there though,
Okay.
to a degree. Yeah.
Okay. So from when you started, even at the time, people were kind of concerned that I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, probably most clients tend to have that feeling.
Okay. Well, good to know. And for the audience as well, if you're feeling that way, it's pretty common. And yeah, it's okay to feel that way. It seems like everyone feels that way. And what is something that most high achieving, I guess, like clients, like a quality or two, what are they what are the most high achieving clients have as a quality when it comes to like investing mindset?
Yeah, quality. I think just really sort of leaning in, all the clients that I work with, clients that really sort of lean into the process as well, and put in that time, doing reviews and really engaging. Those are the ones who get the best results.
Yeah. And how often do you recommend that people look into their plan and check in with their plan, how they're going kind of thing?
Yeah. So yeah, how I work with most clients would be to do a full annual review each year, but we also check in between those reviews. So
Yeah.
we tend to catch up like on a quarterly basis, but
Mm.
doing a full rigorous annual review as well. So, and that's covering off everything and going back to those original forecasts and modeling and saying, yeah, this is where we expect it to be, this is where we are, and yeah, tightening the plan each year.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you. I hope that you sharing that has given our audience and friends some insights into how you work. I'm a big fan of, I guess, like I was talking to a guest previously as well, and we're just like, yeah, we like the peace of mind of dealing with professionals like yourselves,
Yeah.
who kind of like know the ins and outs. Because yeah, sometimes an accountant is not enough. Cool. Well, what I want to do actually is to ask these questions. Ask these questions. This is from the audience. Some of them I might delete, but we'll ask these questions from I got them from the anonymous link that I've posted. So I don't really know who this is, but definitely someone who's seen my socials. So what do you think about working with companies like stockbrokers where they advise you to invest in certain stocks and manage your portfolio versus just buying the S&P 500 consistently?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my personal philosophy, or the sorts of strategies that I will put in place for clients is index style investing. Not to say that one's right or wrong, but that's just my sort of personal view. That there is sort of a lot of research that does back that as well. Long term research that sort of compares active style investment strategies to the index. And it's quite a compelling case. So in Australia, over 80% of active fund managers are underperforming the index
Wow.
long-term fees.
Take note. Take note.
Yeah, and internationally, it's over 90%. So it's quite high. And it's not to say, though, that there aren't good brokers and good managers out there, but you need to select carefully. And sometimes, simple can be, well, it is very effective over the long term, just reducing that risk.
So just to make sure that we repeat that, over 80% of active fund managers in Australia underperforms in comparison to the S&P 500.
Yeah. So, well, in Australia, we would be looking at like the ASX 200 as a comparison point for Australian shares. But yeah, in the US or internationally, the S&P 500, that's even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. I think that answers the question. Um, a question for you. If you were to lose it all today, how will you build your wealth or assets today with the current economy?
If I was to lose it all, it would be, I would take the same approach essentially. So, yeah, for me, it's not sort of about trying to time the market like we spoke about. It's always a good time to start and build consistently and over time as well.
Perfect. Another one. If you were to advise a high school graduate on what career path to go to or multiple career paths that they can go to, what would you say?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it would really depend on what their interests are. I don't know. That's a little bit hard.
If their goal is to achieve, I guess, like financial success as quickly as they can, which career fields or industry would you recommend them to go?
Yeah. Look, I think definitely, there's lots of money to be made in lots of different industries. If they, wanted to, or, um, wanted to start their own business, that's probably the most lucrative, where you actually have a lot more control over your earning power over time. But that might be something that comes later down the line after some experience. But yeah, I think you just got to lean into what you like, and that's the best way to do well, I'd say.
So would you say if you were to choose between healthcare or media, which one would you, I guess, just like vote? I wouldn't say like, because I think it's hard to advise like a high school person. And I personally would say like, look, just travel fast.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I don't know. It can be so hard to know what you want to do as well. So I think you just got to try different things and see what clicks with you as well. You've got so much time on your hands, and you don't have to have it all figured out, super early.
Yeah, fair enough. And this might be a weird question. We can delete this or not. It does not have to be financial advisors. Maybe it can be, what is the biggest scam or worst financial advice given today, especially with like social media and the rise of influencers?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's probably advisors out there that aren't necessarily doing the right thing. So you do have to be careful with who you select in that sense, and how they're remunerated, and if there's any conflicts there. Um, that would be a big one.
Okay. Actually, this is going to be the last one. What do you think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Get asked this a lot.
Okay. You get asked this a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Look, I don't think it's necessary to own. Like, I think you can do really well without those, higher risk, more speculative sorts of investments for sure. And it depends where you are in your investing journey as well. So, if you're just starting out, it is quite high risk. So maybe, to build a more diversified share portfolio before dabbling in those sorts of things. But if you're further down the wealth building journey, you've got a nice asset sort of base behind you, then and if it's something that interests you, then you know, there's potential, like lots of potential upside in those things. But you just got to be careful to not be overexposed. Like, you probably only want a small percentage of your investments in those sorts of more high risk investments.
I see. So it's in the high risk bucket and just a small portion of your portfolio. What percentage would you recommend is like the maximum that one should put into high risk investments?
Yeah, I would sort of cap that around the 5% mark,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my rule as well, like 5-10%.
Yeah.
That's it. And a question that came to mind is there's a lot of chatter that the property market's going to crash. I feel like it's been happening since the beginning of time. If I wanted to buy my first property, or I want to buy a property, what should I do? Should I wait it out, or should I just buy now?
Yeah, as you said, there's so many times in the last decade where there's been chatter around this, and it hasn't necessarily come to fruition. So I think if you're sort of sitting on the sidelines waiting for a crash, you can end up missing out on a lot of upside. And with property, same with shares, it is a long-term investment. So, even if property prices do fall, I think, as long as you're buying a really, a quality property in a good area, you know, in 10 years, you're probably not going to be worried too much about any, if it didn't fall in a short term, I think. So yeah, it's really just keeping that long-term focus.
So having a long-term focus, especially with property, and buying in a good area and good fundamentals or foundations of the house as well, or property.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, those are some amazing nuggets. Thank you so much. And just for our audience to know, obviously I've known you, but tell us about your experience in the financial advice industry.
Yeah. So, we touched on the beginning. Been in the industry for roughly 15, for the first sort of 10 years of my career. I was working more in the retiree space, high net wealth. So started through client services, power planning, onto advising. And then in the last sort of 5 years is where I made the switch and working with more of a younger demographic. And that's sort of the space that I'm predominantly in at the moment as well. Yeah.
Amazing. And you're enjoying working with people who want to get to that retirement stage early?
Yeah, for sure. With wealth building, time is your biggest and most valuable asset. So I do have a passion for working with clients who are younger because I do feel like, that's where I can drive a really big impact in their lives, which is, yeah.
I love that. So I love the fact that you said that time is the biggest driver.
Yeah.
You go. There you go. Amazing. So thank you so much. I really do appreciate the time here. And good luck on the half marathon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Fiery Femmes. If this resonated, share it with a woman in your life because we rise higher when we rise together. Don't forget to follow and review. It helps more women access the tools and conversations that build wealth and confidence. For more career and financial empowerment, come hang out on Instagram and YouTube at Fiery Femmes. I'll see you in the next episode.